This is Derrick Rose, the 2011 NBA MVP. At only 22 years old, Rose became the youngest MVP in history. Fans around the world thought he would be a dominant force for years to come. But unfortunately, as we all know, that did not happen. I'm going to be covering every season of Rose's career up until now, which includes his transformation into a superstar and also his fall into mediocrity. Rose got selected by the Bulls with the first overall pick in 2008, a draft that would go down to be one of the better ones in recent history. With only a 1.7% chance of getting the number 1 pick, the Bulls were extremely fortunate to be able to draft him. People even believe that this draft was rigged because the league wanted one of the biggest markets, Chicago, to have a superstar. But anyway, Rose had a great rookie season, averaging 17 points and 6 assists per game on 48% shooting. You could already see flashes of him becoming a star at 20 years old. He was an athletic freak of nature, but he also knew how to maintain control of his body, which is something that very few rookies are capable of. He won Rookie of the Year in a landslide, but his greatest moment this season happened during the playoffs. The young Bulls were matched up against the defending champion Boston Celtics. And man, this would turn out to be arguably the best first-round series in history. In Game 1, Rose exploded for 36 points and 11 assists. He tied Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record for most points in a playoff debut, as the Bulls won Game 1 in overtime. They would go on to lose the series in 7 tough games, but everyone at this time knew that Rose was going to be big. However, his rise to stardom would take a backseat for a bit. In the summer of 2009, the NCAA went through some investigations and found out that Rose cheated on his SAT exam in high school. His SAT scores were invalidated, so they declared that he should have been academically ineligible to play college basketball in Memphis. As a result, Rose and the Memphis Tigers' entire 2007 to 2008 college season was removed from the history books. And while this situation left a bad mark on Rose's reputation, that did not stop him from continuing his NBA success. In his second season, he upped his scoring average to over 20 points per game, and he's now the first option on the team. But the Bulls didn't do much better as a team, since Ben Gordon, who was a huge part of their team last season, ended up signing with the Pistons. They finished the season again with a 41-41 record, and they lost in the first round to the Cavs, despite Rose playing out of his mind. The 2010-2011 season is where it all came together. Under the team's new coach Tom Thibodeau, Rose ended up having a career season, averaging 25, 8, and 4 as the Bulls won a league-best 62 games. He was also voted in as a starter for the 2011 All-Star Game and had the 5th highest number of jersey sales by the end of the season. This is the season where Rose's popularity skyrocketed, and he became a bona fide superstar. He capped off this incredible season by being the youngest player to ever win the MVP. And even though the Bulls lost to the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals, this was just the beginning of Rose's journey, or at least we thought it was. 2012 came along and brought with it some high expectations. Unfortunately, Rose managed to only play 39 of the 66 total games in this lockout-shortened season. He was struggling with a bunch of nagging injuries for months, but he still put up some good numbers and entered the playoffs at full health. And I'm sure everyone knows what happens next, so I don't want to talk about this too much. In Game 1, as the Bulls were up 12 with a minute left, Rose started driving to the basket and awkwardly planted his left knee. He was forced to leave the game, and an MRI later revealed that he tore his ACL. This would end up being the defining moment in Rose's career, and the defining moment of the Bulls franchise in the post-Jordan era. April 28, 2012 is a day that fans will never forget. Although medical treatments and surgical procedures are as advanced as ever, his career started a downward spiral that even to this day he's still recovering from. After tearing his ACL, Rose missed the entire next season. Then in the beginning of the 2013-2014 season, Rose finally stepped onto the court in one of the most anticipated returns as far as I can remember. He started off a bit slow, making only 15 of his 52 field goals in his first 3 games back. But later he had 2 20-point games and was starting to get back into form. Until 10 games into the season, he suffered another knee injury. After a game against the Blazers, it was found out that he had a torn meniscus, this time in his right knee, and he was out for the rest of this season as well. But even with another terrible injury, everyone was still optimistic. A meniscus tear isn't that bad, and players usually fully recover after one. He returned to the court in the 2014-15 season, and he stayed relatively healthy for most of the season. But once again, Rose found out that he had another meniscus tear in his right knee on February 24, 2015. The same knee that apparently got fixed in the year before. He just could not catch a break. And around this time, people started having doubts if he'd ever be the same player again. He was still only 26 years old, but his play on the court was nowhere near the level of his MVP season, even in the games where he was healthy. Luckily, this injury wasn't that serious and Rose returned just in time for the playoffs. The Bulls had a pretty good run and Rose even hit a game-winning shot against the Cavaliers. While he didn't shoot the ball that well, he still averaged some respectable numbers against them and showed flashes of his former self. Perhaps there was still some hope. Rose finished off the 2015 postseason playing his best basketball since he tore his ACL. He spent the summer relaxing and working on his game as he was finally healthy. But then he got struck by another incident. This time it was not an injury. It was a lawsuit filed by his ex-girlfriend, who accused Rose and his buddies for drugging and gang raping her back in 2013. To make matters even worse, right before the 2016 season started, Rose fractured his left orbital bone during the team's first practice. It wasn't that serious, but he said that his vision was messed up for months. He even adjusted his playstyle by starting to take more bank shots, since he had some depth perception issues. With the combination of his blurry vision and his ex-girlfriend's lawsuit in the back of his mind, Rose struggled early on in the season. But he did improve every month. In February and March, he averaged these numbers, which are not bad at all. Although Rose had a decent season, the Bulls decided that it was time to move on. They traded Rose to the Knicks in the summer of 2016. The good news is that Rose surprisingly had a pretty good season in this past year. He averaged his most points in a season since 2012 and also recorded a career high in free throw percentage. But when the season was almost over, yet again Rose suffered another torn meniscus, this time on his left knee. All of these injuries that happened to him, man, it's just really sad and unfortunate. Rose is an incredibly hard worker and has tried his absolute best to change his playstyle to help his team win. But all of these obstacles just keep putting him down. In the last 5 years, he has had 4 knee surgeries. It's amazing that he can still walk, let alone play professional basketball. And don't forget, he's only 28 years old, so his career is far from over. He most likely won't play like a superstar or MVP anymore, but I think he can still be a great starter on a playoff team. I'm a huge Derrick Rose fan and I will still root for him every time he steps on the court. But sometimes you gotta wonder, what if we lived in a world where Rose never got injured? Thanks for watching everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed the video.